Hi, today I'm going to be talking about recycling old materials and making new projects from them. First up, I'm going to be talking about this stitched crow piece, which is actually recycled from a larger project. And I'm also going to demonstrate how to join offcuts into one piece that you can then embellish and add to and make into a new piece. Here's what it looks like when it's finished. Let's get started. First, I want to talk about this stitched crow. The background for the crow is actually from a larger piece of slow stitching that I had done years ago. And I repurposed it by cutting out a section that I liked from this larger piece. I saved the other part, and I may use that for something else. And I added the crow as well as some small patches of fabric to tie everything together. I added some cording around the border and a little bit more stitching. So what looks like something that was planned from the beginning is really a recycled piece in every way. The extra stitching and the small patches of fabric have brought it together and unified it and made it look really intentional. So here I have 3 small pieces cut off from 2 different projects. They're really just scraps. You can see here that these are 3 layers of fabric. So instead of working on felt like I normally do, I'm going to use the fabric that exists here. I'm going to use these layers as my base for joining and no felt. So my first step is to join these pieces together and make one piece. So I've decided that I'm going to make this a visible mend in the sense that I'm not going to try to hide that they were separate pieces. I'm using a contrasting color thread, and I'm going to stitch together on the front in a visible way. It's going to become part of the piece. So here I am just placing the pieces down on a flat surface. It's a little difficult to hold them and stitch them straight. And putting them down on a flat surface, while I take some stitches across, is making this an easier process. I'm spreading out my stitches. So in a way, this is like a basting process. I know that I can come back later and add more stitches, but this first pass of stitching is going to connect these 2 pieces and make them closer to being one piece of fabric. I'm going through all 3 layers, all the way to the back, and securing these 2 pieces together. So here's my join. You can see it at the front and the back. And now I have to attach the bottom piece. I'm looking at it here. It's not completely straight. There's a bit of an angle there. I'm not too worried about it. I just need to decide which way I want to attach it. And I'm liking the way that looks. There's a bit of a curve that's matching the curved white piece. So I decide that that's the way I want to stitch it together. And I find that it's going to be easier to attach this on a flat surface. Because I want to do this join where I'm not creating a bulky seam, I want everything to be flat. It's just easier to do it this way. So I take my first pass across the piece, just like I did on the piece above, and I'm getting that last bottom piece attached to the larger piece that I created by attaching the first 2. So here are my pieces attached together. Because that bottom piece isn't even, I am going to go and slice the bottom off so that I've got more of a square happening. And now I'm ready to start adding some slow stitching. I'm starting with a thread that matches, and I'm going over my first line of joining stitches. This is going to reinforce the stitches that are already there and add an extra element of color. This piece is really inspired by the make, do, and mend philosophy. So I've printed out those words onto fabric, ironed them on, and I'm going to stitch over them and incorporate that into this piece. And I'm liking the way that looks, and so I'm going to add some more red elements other places in the piece. I found this piece of a burgundy red felt that I decide to put on the back and just leave a tiny bit showing as a border. I stitch that on with red, and I go around a second time and add some details in white. I've also added this little weaving patchwork piece, another reminder of the make, do, and mend idea, as well as in the back I cut out a hole to remind myself about the theme of this piece, which is mending and making something from something discarded. The crow artwork was recycled from a cozy I'd made for a planter. And here it is in its first life. And it got a second life as a stitched artwork. So these are two pieces that are recycled, remade in two different ways. One was cut out from another piece, and the other one were three pieces stitched together to make a new piece. I hope this has sparked some ideas for you about things that you might have that you could repurpose and recycle into something new. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye.